The sky was red, not from sunset, but from smoke. Flames danced across the ruins of the alien city, painting the night with fire and shadows. Buildings had fallen. The ground was cracked, and ash floated like snow through the air. Among the destruction, a small girl moved like a ghost, silent, dusty, broken. She wore a tattered brown cloak and no shoes. Her gray skin was smeared with ash. Her golden eyes, once bright like the twin moons, were dull. In her small hands, she held something precious, a torn scarf, frayed at the edges and stained with blood. Her mother's scarf, the last thing her mother gave her before she vanished in the chaos. "Run, don't look back," her mother had whispered. And she had run for hours, maybe days. She didn't know anymore. She hadn't eaten, she hadn't slept. Her whole world had burned behind her. And now she stood in silence, hiding behind the broken wall of a ruined home, waiting. For what? She didn't know. Then she heard it, footsteps, not light like hers, heavy, rhythmic, human. Her breath caught. Her body froze. Her heart beat so loud it hurt. She'd seen the humans on the screens. Big armor, strange eyes, weapons that glowed blue. They were the enemy. The ones who brought the war to her planet. The ones who killed her mother. One was close now. Very close. She slowly peeked through a crack in the wall. A tall human stood in the middle of the street. His black armor was scratched. His helmet was off, tucked under his arm. His face was pale and covered in dirt. A long scar ran down his jaw. His eyes scanned the ruins, sharp and searching. She ducked back. Maybe he didn't see her, but then his voice. ... I know you're there. It wasn't a loud voice. Not angry. Not like the soldiers in the vids. It was quiet, calm, tired. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. The girl didn't move. Her legs wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't. "Listen." Her fingers clutched the scarf tighter. She waited for the sound of footsteps walking away, but they died in single quotes too, instead. They came closer, slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a scared animal. "I saw your mother," he said gently. Her head snapped up. Her throat closed. "She tried to stop the blast from hitting the others," he continued. "She saved them. She saved me." The girl bit her lip. She didn't believe him. Humans lie. They kill. They trick. But then he stepped into view. He knelt on one knee, not holding a weapon, not in armor, just kneeling, with his hands resting on his legs, and in his palm was something small, something familiar. A necklace, her mother's necklace. A small piece of polished stone in the shape of their moon, carved by her mother's hands. It had been around her neck the day she ran. Now it was in the human's hand. "I took this after the explosion," he said. "I didn't know why. I just didn't want it to be left in the fire." She didn't move, couldn't. Then, slowly, he set the necklace down on the ground and stepped back. "I'll leave it here for you," he said softly. "You don't have to come out. Just take it and be safe." He turned to go, but the girl's voice, hoarse and cracked, came out before she could stop it. "Wait." He stopped. She stepped out from behind the wall. Her legs shook, her eyes locked on. His boots, not his face, never his face, but she stepped forward anyway. She picked up the necklace, held it tight. You saw her." She whispered. The human nodded. "She fought to protect others," he said. "Even me. And she told me, if I found you, to make sure you were safe." The girl trembled. Her breath hitched. "You lie. I don't." She hated humans. "Believe that," he said. But she still saved one. She looked up then, really looked. His eyes weren't cold, weren't proud. just tired, like someone who'd lost more than one war. "What's your name?" she asked, barely a whisper. He smiled. "Daniel." She didn't give hers, but she took a step closer. The scarf fell from her hand. Daniel knelt again and reached into his coat. He pulled out a silver foil pack and gently set it down. "Food," he said. "Warm? It's not much, but it's safe." The girl stared. She hadn't eaten in days. Her belly growled in betrayal. She didn't want to trust him, but she picked it up. Daniel stood. He looked at her one more time, then turned to leave. But this time, she followed him, just one step, then another. Asterisk, the girl followed him, not because she trusted him, not because she believed everything he said, but because something inside her, something small and quiet, whispered, "Maybe you're not alone." Daniel didn't speak as they walked. The ruins stretched far in every direction, broken walls, blackened trees, scorched skies. A burned world. She stayed 5 steps behind, her bare feet silent on the ash. Every time he looked back, she tensed, ready to run. But he never reached for her, never forced her forward. He just said, "It's not far. Just a safe spot." She didn't reply. They crossed a collapsed bridge, climbed through a torn fence, and slipped into an old bunker hidden under a hill. The metal door creaked. The air smelled of rust and old rain. Inside was dark but warm. A single emergency light glowed red in the corner. Crates were stacked on one side. A small heater hummed. It wasn't home. But it wasn't hell either. Daniel sat on the floor and slowly took off his jacket. He unwrapped a blanket from one of the crates and laid it down. "You can rest here," he said. The girl stayed near the wall, hugging herself. Her arms were thin. Her skin was cold. She didn't want to sit. She didn't want to eat again. But her legs gave out anyway, and she sank to the floor, still holding the necklace in her hand. Daniel watched her for a while. Then he did something strange. He smiled. Not a big smile, not happy, just soft, like someone who had waited years for something small to go right. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly. The girl looked at him. "My mother said all humans lie," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "A lot of them do." "Then, why are you helping me?" He took a breath, looked down at his hands. "I was there when she died," he said. "She shielded 3 others from the blast. One of them was me. I was the only one who got back." Up, the girl's fingers tightened on the necklace. "I didn't know her name," Daniel continued, "but I remember her eyes. You have the same ones." Silence filled the room. The girl stared at the floor, her voice shaking. Her name was Sela. She was strong. Daniel nodded slowly. She was brave. Tears filled her golden eyes. She blinked fast, trying to hold them back. "She told me to run," the girl said, "but I didn't want to. I wanted to stay. I thought maybe she'd follow me, but she didn't." Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper. She couldn't. The blast was too strong. The tears fell now. Hot and silent, Daniel didn't move, didn't touch her. Just sat quietly, letting her cry. Minutes passed, maybe more. Finally, he reached into a bag and pulled something out. A small cloth. He slid it across the floor toward her. She looked at it, then took it. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel nodded once. He handed her another food pack. This one smelled like warm bread and something sweet. She opened it slowly, biting carefully. It was the best thing she'd tasted since the war began. "I used to eat with my mother," she said softly. "She made food that smelled like flowers." Daniel smiled faintly. "My mom made stew. It smelled like wet socks, but it tasted amazing." She let out a tiny laugh. Just one. But it was real. I don't know your name, Daniel said after a while. The girl looked at him, then looked down. Lyra, she said. Lyra, he repeated, gently. That's a good name. She nodded, hugging the necklace. I don't know what to do, she whispered. Daniel leaned back against the wall. His eyes closed for a moment. Me neither, he admitted. But I do know this no child should be alone in a war. Lyra looked at him. Her voice cracked again. I'm not a soldier. I'm not strong. You don't have to be, Daniel said. You just have to survive. That's strong enough. The heater buzzed. The red light flickered outside. The wind howled through broken streets, but inside the bunker, two survivors shared warmth and silence, and for the first time since the world fell apart, Lyra didn't feel completely alone. Lyra had always known silence, but this silence was different. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It was the kind that hides things in the dark. She followed the human Daniel through the gray wasteland, her bare feet stepping over cracked metal, plates, and burned-out tree roots. The city behind them had vanished under smoke and memory. Ahead was the unknown. Stay close, Daniel said over his shoulder. This part was a battlefield. Not long ago. Lyra didn't answer. She just clutched the necklace around her neck and kept her eyes low. It had been 2 days since they'd left the bunker. 2 nights under shattered ceilings. 2 mornings waking to the fear that someone or something was watching. And now, the landscape was changing. Burnt buildings gave way to twisted trees, muted colors, poison fog in patches. The ruins of war didn't end at the city's edge. They just wore different masks here. Suddenly, Daniel raised a hand and crouched low. Lyra froze. She crept beside him and peeked over a broken wall. There, it was a graveyard of machines. Crushed tanks, burnt alien transports. Human walkers with their legs folded in like dead insects. Weapons and helmets scattered like children's toys. After a tantrum. In the center stood a flagpole, bent but still holding the torn banner of some long-forgotten unit. Daniel's voice was low. We'll search for supplies. Stay hidden. If you hear anything, run. Lyra nodded. Daniel moved fast. He checked old crates, turned over dead gear, and kept his rifle in one hand. Lyra wandered near a collapsed shuttle, careful not to touch anything glowing. Then she saw it. A small recording orb. It's cracked but still blinking. She tapped it. A shaky hologram flickered to life, blue and fuzzy. A soldier, human, speaking fast. Ambushed. Too many. Our evac ship crashed. If anyone sees this, don't trust the signal beacon. It's a trap. Then static, then silence. Lyra stepped back slowly. She turned toward Daniel to call him, but stopped. Someone else was standing behind him. Not human, not alien like her. Something wrong, tall, thin, wearing what looked like pieces of armor stitched from human and alien parts. The figure didn't speak. Its face was covered in smooth, polished bone. Lyra's breath caught. She picked up a small rock and threw it. Hard it clattered on a metal plate. The figure turned. Daniel turned to and fired without hesitation. The shot echoed like thunder. The figure disappeared in a blur. Daniel ran to her, pulling her behind a walker's broken leg. What did you see? He asked sharply. She pointed. It was watching you? I know. They've been tracking us since yesterday. Lyra's heart pounded. Why didn't you say? Daniel sighed. Didn't want to scare you? She scowled. I'm already scared. A pause. Then he smiled a little. Fair point. They didn't stay in the graveyard. By dusk, they reached a dry ravine with thick stone walls on either side. Daniel led her into a hollow beneath a fallen bridge, setting down his bagged up. He pulled out a small heat pod and activated it. The warm glow made Lyra's shoulders finally relax. She sat down and watched him eat quietly. "You shoot fast," she said after a moment. He looked up. "Would you rather I didn't?" "No," she said, just surprised. "You look tired." "I am tired of fighting." Daniel stared into the little flame of surviving. Lyra didn't reply right away. Then she whispered, "I don't want to survive anymore." Daniel looked up sharply. "I want to live," she said. "Like before the war. Before I had to sleep under broken roofs and eat dirt covered." Food. Daniel reached into his bag and pulled something out, a soft, cloth-wrapped bundle. He handed it to her. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small, plush alien toy, gray and round, with stubby wings and wide eyes. Its fur was old, but clean. Lyra stared at it in shock. "I found it in a burned home days ago," Daniel said. "Didn't know why I took it. Guess I do now." Lyra didn't speak. She just hugged the toy against her chest and closed her eyes. And, for one small second, the war melted away. The cave was dark, but it wasn't empty. Daniel lit a glow stick and held it high. The soft green light spilled across jagged walls and broken crates. This wasn't just any cave, it was an old supply outpost built deep into the cliffs before the war spread here. Lyra stood at the entrance, hugging her new toy tight. Her golden eyes scanned the darkness with caution. "This place looks dead," she whispered. Daniel stepped inside slowly. "Let's hope it stays that way." They hadn't spoken much since the incident in the machine graveyard. Both of them felt it, that something was following them. Not just a scavenger, not just a drone. Something smarter. Inside the outpost, metal walls were covered in rust. Wires dangled from the ceiling like vines. Empty water cans littered the floor. Daniel checked every corner with his rifle raised. "Looks clear," he said finally. "We stay here tonight, maybe longer." Lyra nodded. Her legs were tired. Her feet were cracked and dusty, but she didn't complain. She never did. While Daniel prepared a small meal, Lyra wandered down one of the side tunnels. Her hand trailed along the wall, cold, damp. Then she heard it. A voice, soft, distant. In her language, Lyra. She froze. "Lyra, come closer." Her chest tightened. She knew that voice. Mother. She turned, heart racing, and stepped deeper into the tunnel. The green light faded behind her. Shadows moved like ghosts along the walls. "Lyra, I'm waiting." She followed the voice, down the steps, past an old doorway with cracked screens, into a room full of flickering blue light. And there on the far side stood a figure, gray-skinned, same eyes, same face. "Mom," Lyra whispered. But something was wrong. The woman didn't move. Her feet hovered inches above the ground, and her face was twisted in a crooked smile. Lyra stepped back. Her mind screamed, but her voice stayed silent. Suddenly, hand grabbed her shoulder. She spun, ready to fight. It was Daniel. He pulled her away from the room and slammed the door shut. "Are you insane?" he shouted. "Don't go wandering off alone." "I heard her," Lyra cried. "I heard my mother." Daniel's face hardened. "That wasn't her." "How do you know?" "Because I've seen that tech before," he said. "It's not. A person eats a projection trap. Voice mimicry. Psychological warfare meant to draw survivors in and make them easy targets." Lyra's knees gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. Daniel knelt beside her, voice softer now. "They did the same thing to my squad. One of my men," followed a voice calling his name. "We never saw him again." Lyra covered her ears. "I thought I was strong." "You are," he said. "But even strong people break." especially when they miss someone that much. They sat in silence. Then Daniel stood, walked into the corner, and kicked open a supply locker. Inside were blankets, 2 old helmets, and a datapad covered in dust. He handed the pad to Lyra. "Here," he said. "Check it. Maybe you'll find something real." Lyra tapped the screen. Most files were corrupted, but one folder opened. A diary. Logs written by someone named LT. Myra, an alien officer who'd stayed in this very bunker years ago. As Lyra read, her eyes widened. "She was like me," she whispered. Lost her family, ran from the cities. Found a human who helped her. Daniel chuckled. Sounds familiar. But they got attacked. By someone called the Bone Watcher. Daniel turned serious. What? That's what she called it. Tall, silent, war armor made from bones and tech. It hunted the weak, stole voices, played memories. Daniel took the pad and read it himself. His jaw tightened. "It's still here," he said. "That thing we saw. The one near the graveyard. It wasn't a scavenger. It was the Bone Watcher," Lyra whispered, suddenly. The lights flickered. The outpost groaned. A soft voice echoed down the hallway. "Daniel." Daniel stood slowly, eyes locked on the tunnel. "That's not funny," he said. "Did you leave me, Daniel?" Lyra stood beside him, gripping his arm. The voice changed again, her mother's voice this time. "Come, Lyra. I'm here." "No," Lyra said firmly. She stepped forward and shouted into the dark. "You're not my mother. You're just a shadow." The voice stopped. Silence. Then a low rumble. Daniel raised his rifle. "We need to leave now." But Lyra looked around. "No, we can't run forever," she said. "I want to know what this thing is. I want to end it." Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "All right," he said. "Then we fight together." The outpost door slammed shut behind them. Daniel and Lyra ran. The wind howled through the broken forest. The moonlight slipped through clouds, casting long, twisted shadows that danced across the blackened soil. Behind them, the whispers followed, changing. Voices, familiar ones. "Daniel, Lyra, don't run." Lyra didn't look back. Her legs burned, lungs ached. But she ran harder. They had packed fast, 1 blanket, 2 food packs, and Daniel's rifle. Everything else had to be left behind. Ahead, the cliffs opened into a wide ravine, littered with fallen logs and the bones of old battle mechs. Daniel led the way, ducking through metal limbs and broken roots. "We'll lose it in the canyon," he shouted. "Its size will slow it down." Lyra gritted her teeth. "If it bleeds, we can stop it." Daniel glanced back, surprised by her tone, but nodded. "That's the spirit." Suddenly, crack. A blast of blue energy hit the ground just feet behind them. Rocks exploded. Dirt flew. Lyra screamed as she stumbled, but Daniel grabbed her hand and pulled her forward. They dove into a narrow crevice between 2 giant rocks. The space was tight, but dry. Daniel motioned for silence. The night went still. No footsteps. No sound. Then dash clack. Clack, clack. Clack, clack. Heavy steps echoed above them. Slow, too slow for anything human. Lyra held her breath. She could feel the vibration. In her bones, Daniel pointed to his ear and mouthed, "Listen." The creature above paused, and then it laughed. But it didn't sound real. It sounded like her laughter. Her mother's. It was copying again. Lyra pressed her hands over her ears. Daniel touched her shoulder gently. She met his eyes. He mouthed, "Don't believe it." After minutes that felt like hours, the footsteps faded. But both of them knew it wasn't gone. It was playing with them now. By morning, the forest was silent. Daniel and Lyra moved quickly. sticking to the shadows and avoiding open ground. They needed distance. The map Daniel found in the outpost showed a ridge up ahead if they could reach the other side. They might find the neutral zone's early warning beacon. But the Bone Watcher was smart. It didn't chase like a beast. It hunted like a predator. Every few hours, they'd hear something. A rustle, a branch snapping. A whisper in Lyra's ear that made her blood freeze. "You've already lost." Noon. Daniel stopped near a dried-up stream. He crouched and pulled a tiny black box from his bag. "What's that?" Lyra asked. "Tracker. Old model. If I can rewire it, I can make a signal spike. It might blind that thing for a few minutes." Lyra watched him work his fingers quick, careful, tired. "You never told me," she said quietly. "Why do you care what happens to me?" Daniel paused. Then he looked at her. "Because I remember what it felt like to be your age, scared. With nowhere to go. My sister didn't survive, but I did. Because someone helped me." Lyra stared. "You want me to survive?" "For her? No," Daniel said. "I want you to survive for you." He smiled. Lyra didn't smile back, but she sat a little closer. "Let me help," she said. Together, they finished the device. Then boom, a tree exploded nearby, sending fire and smoke into the sky. The Bone Watcher was back. Daniel grabbed the device and slung his rifle. "Go west. Now." He shouted, "I'll draw it off." "No." Lyra cried. Daniel didn't argue. He ran toward the sound, firing into the air, yelling. The creature roared back deep, a natural sound that made the trees shake. Lyra hesitated for one heartbeat. Then, she ran the other way, but she didn't cry. Not this time. 20 minutes later, Lyra reached the edge of the ridge. Her legs were numb. Her hands bled from climbing over rocks. She looked back. Smoke rose from the forest. Daniel hadn't returned. She dropped to her knees, gasping. Then she saw it blinking red lights buried under a rock pile. The beacon. She scrambled toward it and yanked off the cover. Inside was a control panel alien design, but similar enough. She remembered what her mother once told her. Machines are just puzzles. Talk to them, and they listen. Lyra pressed the keys. The beacon hummed to life. Then her face turned pale. The signal wasn't going out. It was already being jammed. She heard footsteps from behind. She turned slowly. The Bone Watcher stood at the edge of the clearing, towering. Silent eyes glowing through a mask made of carved skulls. But Lyra didn't run. She stood up. Her fingers trembled, but she held the device Daniel built in one hand. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. The creature tilted its head, then stepped closer. Lyra pressed the button. The air screamed. The creature howled as static filled the air. Sensors. Overwhelmed, it stumbled. That's when Daniel appeared, bloodied, limping. But alive, he fired once, twice, straight, into the creature's head. The mask shattered. The Bone Watcher fell and didn't get back up. Daniel collapsed. The rifle slipped from his hand. His body hit the ground hard. "Daniel!" Lyra screamed, running to him. He was breathing, but barely. Blood soaked his jacket. A deep gash stretched across his side. His face was pale, lips cracked. The fight with the Bone Watcher had cost him more than he'd shown. No, no, no. Lyra pressed her hands over the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Stay awake. I need you." Daniel opened his eyes slowly. His voice was a whisper. "Did we get it?" Lyra nodded. "It's gone. You killed it." Daniel gave a small smile. Took it long enough. Tears stung her eyes. She shook her head. "Don't talk like that. You're not dying." He closed his eyes again. "I'll rest." "Just a minute." "No. No rest," Lyra said, voice cracking. You didn't carry me this far just to leave me now. But Daniel didn't respond. She looked around, panicked. Then her eyes locked on the beacon, still humming, still blinking, still not transmitting. She scrambled to it, pulling off the cover panel. Wires sparked. The screen flickered. A jamming field was still active, probably from the bone. Watcher's tech pack. Lyra reached into Daniel's bag and found his toolkit. I'm not a soldier, she whispered to herself, breathing fast. I'm not strong. I'm not smart. But I remember what my mother said. Machines are just puzzles. If you're calm, they'll speak to you. Her fingers moved faster than her fear dot, green light. Then static, then a ping. Signal, active. Lyra let out a shaky breath. She pressed. The emergency code. Button dot location beacon sent. Now all she could do was wait and hope someone was listening. She rushed back to Daniel. He was still breathing, but slower. Lyra wrapped his wound as best she could. She covered him with the last blanket. Then she sat beside him, watching the trees. She waited for hours. Every sound made her flinch. She was afraid the Bone Watcher would rise again, but it didn't. Only silence answered. Later, sound echoed from above, low hum. Lyra looked up. A rescue ship was descending. Its lights swept the clearing. Its engines blew dust and leaves in every direction. 3 figures stepped out, 2 in dark suits, 1 in silver armor. All wore helmets. All carried weapons. They approached carefully. Seeing the human and the alien girl beside him, one of them raised a scanner. Human ID confirmed. Sergeant Daniel Harlan. Critical condition. Another scanned Lyra. No registry match, he said coldly. She's not part of the evac list. She's with me. Daniel rasped weakly, eyes barely open. The silver-armored officer looked down at him. You're injured? She's alien. Daniel gritted his teeth. She's not just alien. She's alive. She's a child. You leave high. Don't go. The officer looked at Lyra, then sighed. Protocol says no, but I don't like protocol. He tapped his cums. We're bringing both. Lyra didn't understand at first. Then, the soldier knelt and gently helped Daniel onto a stretcher. You made the call. The officer asked her. She nodded slowly. You saved him, he said. Lyra looked at Daniel and whispered, No, he saved me first. Inside the ship, Lyra sat beside Daniel, her small hand holding his. The medics worked quietly. Machines beeped. The world outside turned small as the ship rose into the clouds. Lyra had never flown before. She didn't even know if she'd ever touched a real starship, but here she was, leaving behind the dirt and blood. The whispering shadows, the ruined world. She glanced down at Daniel. He was unconscious now, hooked up to tubes and wires. He looked old, worn, but peaceful. She reached into his coat pocket and found something unexpected, folded piece of paper. She opened it slowly. It was a drawing, childlike, crude, a little girl and a soldier, standing in front of a small home. The girl had golden eyes. The soldier was smiling. Below it, one word was scribbled in shaky handwriting. Home. Lyra's heart clenched. He had drawn it before any of this, before the graveyard, before the bone. Watcher maybe even before he met her. She didn't know when he made it. But she knew why. Because somewhere deep inside, Daniel had already decided she was his reason. She folded the drawing and held it to her chest. Outside, the clouds opened to reveal stars. The galaxy was vast, cold, and full of war. But in that moment, sitting beside the man who whispered, "You're safe now," in her darkest hour, Lyra realized something for the first time since her mother died. She had a choice now. Not just to survive, but to live. Lyra stood at the window. Her small hands rested against the cool glass as she looked out at the sky. No smoke, no broken towers. Just soft blue clouds and tall green trees stretching far into the horizon. This place was nothing like the war zones. She remembered it was quiet here, peaceful, safe. Daniel called it New Eden, a human colony built after the armistice. It wasn't big, just a small town on the edge of Earth's outer territories. But it had food, water, warm beds, and no sirens. She liked the silence now. Behind her, soft footsteps echoed. "You're awake early," said a familiar voice. Daniel stood in the doorway, wrapped in a long robe. He still walked with a limp. His wound hadn't fully healed, but he looked stronger. Alive, Lyra turned and smiled softly. "I didn't sleep much. Nightmares." Again, she nodded. He walked over slowly and sat beside her. "Want to talk about it?" "I saw her," Lyra whispered. "My mother. She was standing in the fire, reaching for me." Daniel didn't say anything. He just placed his hand over hers. "She didn't blame me," Lyra said. In the dream, she smiled, like she was. "Proud she would be," Daniel said gently. "You survived everything, and you didn't turn bitter. That's strength." Lyra leaned her head against his arm. "You don't have to stay," Daniel added softly. "If your people ever come looking for you, I won't stop you." Lyra looked up at him. "But you're my people now." Daniel's face softened. He reached into his robe and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. "I've been saving this for the right moment," he said. Lyra unwrapped it slowly. It was her mother's necklace, cleaned, polished, and repaired. She gasped. "How did you fix it?" Daniel smiled. "I didn't. The old woman at the colony workshop did. She said it reminded her of something ancient, something worth protecting." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She placed the necklace around her neck, then hugged Daniel tightly. He didn't say a word, just held her. Weeks passed. Lyra went to school for the first time in her life. She sat in a small class with other refugee children, some alien. They learned simple things: numbers, maps, words from both languages. She was quiet at first, always watching the door. But one day, a classmate offered her half an apple. She smiled and didn't stop. Daniel found work repairing old machines. He was good with his hands, and people liked him, especially the children. Some called him Soldier Grandpa, though he always rolled his eyes when they did. Every evening, Lyra waited for him outside the workshop. They walked home together, always together. One evening, as orange sunlight spilled across the colony roads, Daniel noticed something new. Lyra was laughing, genuinely laughing, not just a smile, not forced. She was playing catch with a group of kids near the square. Her gray skin caught the light, and her golden eyes sparkled like stars. Daniel watched her with quiet joy. She looked like a child again. Not a survivor, not a runaway, just a girl. That night, Lyra sat on the rooftop of their small home, her legs swinging over the edge. Daniel joined her, carrying 2 mugs of warm tea. He handed her one and sat down with a sigh. "I was thinking," she said, sipping the drink. "Oh no," he teased. "That's dangerous." She elbowed him gently. "I was thinking about what it means to be home," she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow, and she pointed to the sky. "It's not a place," she said. "Not really. It's a feeling. It's when the voices stop. When the gunfire fades, when you can sleep and dream without fear." Daniel smiled. "You're growing wise. I had a good teacher." They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Lyra added quietly, "Thank you for giving me a new life." Daniel looked at her. "Thank you for giving me a reason to keep living." The wind blew gently across the rooftop. Far below, Soft music played in the colony square. Laughter. Peace. Hope Lyra closed her eyes and breathed in deep. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a lost child. She didn't feel like a stranger or a victim. She felt whole. She felt loved, and as the stars blinked to life above them, she whispered, "I'm home now." Daniel nodded beside her. "Yeah," he said softly. "You are?"